Alright, welcome to my Vue3 blog case study application. And so it's basically kind of the simple blog. There's a bit more sophistication that could be added for an actual real world blog application here. But this is what a general user would see. We'd have a list of blog entries, which I'll show you what you're able to add if you're authenticated in or a moderator. Then you can actually view the actual entry. Again, you wouldn't be able to delete the post if you were just a regular public viewing the entries in the blog. You would actually have to be an authenticated moderator or a super user or something like that. I've also incorporated, the ability to add to search by tags here. Notice that these tags are the same here: web dev, web design, coding, visual communication, viscom, and a list of relevant entries that have the same tags would appear. So how you would add those tags would be when you are adding a blog post, you would add the tags here. So for example, we'll just kind of go test, for example, and hit enter, and then there would be that. You hit post, and that would authenticate, or excuse me, it would actually submit to the back end of the database or a JSON file. And then here, incorporate and just get rid of it if you made a mistake or you don't want to use it or it's no longer relevant. So there's a bit of CRUD or create, read, update, and delete elements within this application. Again, to use it, to add an entry, you'd have to be an authenticated user, a member, or a moderator in the real world. And I've also I'm playing around with while I'm doing these studies, I'm playing around with redesign of my website, Studio-Ryu or Studio-Ryu.com. And I'm a big champion of accessibility, so I would toggle high contrast here or font size. And I use Site Improve to do that sort of checking when I get to that point. Anyhow, I'm just going to show you a little bit of my code base. So initially, this is the information or the blog entries are I'm using a JSON file here that has nodes of the posts here. For example, and that's just usually used for testing. I can, using JSON DB and Visual Studio Code, I can, add, delete, modify these JSON entries here. I'm actually using right now Firebase, and we'll kind of go through how that works here. It's Google Firebase. They have a free version where you can kind of test around, play around, and you start off with making a collection, which is your posts here, and then in that post you have a document, which is an entry. This is its ID number, and then you'd have your collection, and then this is basically the same sort of JSON using NoSQL syntax, but it basically reads as JSON for the most part, and so I can kind of parse through the data the same that I would the JSON file. So it's, I prefer PHP. I may go further and add it to a database, but this is a free database online. I'm not a big advocate of hosting my data on somebody else's server. And then there's with Google Firebase, there's all kinds of tiers that you can pay for and things like that. But I'd much rather use PHP or some other homegrown or database that I own. But I digress. So let's go ahead and add a entry here, and I'm going to add an entry. Let's say we'll say learning CSS, and then we can just add some Greek text here like that. Just lorem ipsum here, and then I'm going to add in my tags here. So that would be CSS. Oops. Enter. I probably would put SAS in there. I would put less in there, which these are CSS compilers. They're actually kind of cool to use. And then we'll say web design, like that, and we'll just put a front end UI, front end UI. Alright, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then maybe I'll put in, I don't know, HTML. Well, maybe I'm talking about CSS, so let's just get rid of HTML for now, although it would be relevant if I was to actually make a post like that. So if you notice in our Vue database here, there's only one entry, which is the original entry that we saw when you hit the home page. I'm going to go ahead and hit add post. So it does its magic, and there it is. There's the blog entry here. Okay, and the text is truncated just to give a snippet, so we'd have a list of entries eventually, and then we can click on that and we can go to the entry and read, and we can see our relevant tags here at the bottom, which may be too small to see, but over here on the right they are there. One that wasn't added that wasn't synonymous with some of these was less. Right, so learning CSS will show. If I do web dev, the first entry will show. I do web design, both of them show because both of them have web design. Okay, so I think that's pretty nifty, the capability using JavaScript within the Vue framework. So let's add one more. Let me see here. I'm going to add, let's see, color theory. Color theory in web design. Okay, again, we're going to add some more Greek text, just faux text. Add some more like that, and then again, color theory. We can add again CSS, web design. We can add, let's see, psychology, because color theory has a lot to do with psychology and how different people's view and see colors. And yeah, that'll be it for now. So we'll go here, we'll add that, and then there's a new blog entry, color theory and web design. Click on that, we can see the entry, and go home. And then if we look at our database here, we can see these entries here, right? So there's the first entry, there's a second entry, you may not be able to see that, the color theory, and third. And these are not necessarily, and then learning CSS, these are not necessarily in ascending or descending order based on the IDs here in Firebase. That has to be done on the Vue side using the create at with a timestamp. You could probably add your own keys, or you can sort by probably you could sort by tags, relevant tags. You could sort by alphabetically, by the title alphabetically, so on and so forth. Okay, so let's see here. So let's see, learning CSS like that. Okay, so we'll add one more just to kind of go through this, and I'll just say, I don't know, accelerated learning, learning through NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and then we'll just add some more Greek text, and that it doesn't really matter. We'll go, we'll say NLP first, we'll say psychology, we'll say UX, just for example, to show some things, and yeah, we'll just leave it at 3 for this example here. And then there's our new entry here, and then if you notice, what will happen is we have some new entries, right? So within our tags here, so NLP is new because I added that. Psychology, and that's in 2 places, and I did that on purpose. So when I click on psychology, psychology shows up. If I click on UX, only one shows up because it only has a UX tag. VisCom is the same. CSS, 2 show up, so on and so forth. So again, this could be a lot more sophisticated, and that's, you know, the beauty of kind of agile methodology. You can build a basic working beta version, and then your client or your user or users, you know, your personas would go through and say, hey, you know, we'd like, you know, the date and time, or we'd like to know how many, or can you show so many, however many are on a page, and then, you know, maybe however many are under each one of these tags here, or maybe you can also click on these little pills here to do the same sort of sorting. So I think it's pretty neat using the code base, and also using the composition. There's the options API within Vue3, and then there is the composition, which I'm actually mainly using here. So here's an example page for the home. This is the template, or the HTML, or the view here. This is the controller, which is the actual scripts, which is using setup, and I'm actually using what's called composables, or basically they're reusable JavaScript text that is actually doing the heavy lifting and reaching out to Firebase to pull in the data. There's also some error checking as well. And then the controller, the controller is the, you know, the brains, and then of course the model is the data, and the data is the Vue.js, or excuse me, not the Vue.js, it's the Firebase free database. Another thing that I've also added is, say that there's a page that doesn't exist. For example, I could say this tag, so that would show up, and then I get a 404 page that's built in through the Vue3 router. Or let's say I click on an entry here, and it's the wrong entry, and, you know, I'm just changing it, and we get error checking that's saying, hey, sorry, that post doesn't exist. You still go back to home and click on it again. So, you know, again, there's a lot you can do with Vue3. It's pretty sophisticated. And so lastly, let's see here. Let's do one more, and we'll just say test some gobbledygook here, and, you know, maybe just a test tag there, and that'll be entered into the database one more time in Firebase. One of these would be that, and that's here, right here. And then we go and view it, and like, I don't like that. And then as a moderator or an administrator, I can go ahead and say, let me get rid of that post, and it goes back to the home page. And then in Firebase, it has gotten rid of that entry. That entry no longer exists. Okay, but the others are still there. So there you go. There's just my brief overview, hopefully brief enough overview of a little case study of using Vue3, building a simple blog application.